Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Rachel Burden and John Kay.
Here are our headlines today. COVID booster jabs could be available as early as September. The Vaccines Minister says, if needed, the extra injections would be offered to the over-70s and frontline health staff.
Lockdown eases for Wales as it becomes the first UK nation to lift travel restrictions within its borders.
A third night of protests in Bristol leads to 10 arrests. Police say bottles and eggs were thrown at officers trying to disperse a crowd of around 1,000 demonstrators.
Good morning. Wales are Six Nations champions after Scotland beat France in Paris for the first time this century to end French hopes of winning the title.
Will music festivals be back this summer? With many hoping so, we're going to look at the challenges facing the organisers.
Good morning. After a chilly start this morning, we'll have some sunshine for a while, but there's cloud, rain and wind to move in from the Atlantic this weekend. But there is something to look forward to next week, and I'll tell you all about that later on.
Good morning. It's Saturday, the 27th of March. Our top story then. People over the age of 70 could start receiving booster jabs from September to help protect them from other variants of coronavirus.
Yes, the Vaccines Minister, Nadhim Zahawi, said the programme would most likely be rolled out this autumn, if it's required. Health and social care staff and the clinically vulnerable would be first in line for those doses, as Simon Jones explains.
On track. The government is confident of offering all adults the first of 2 doses of a COVID vaccine by the end of July. But now it's looking further ahead. The Vaccines Minister has told The Telegraph that the most vulnerable could be given a 3rd dose as early as September. Nadhim Zahawi says the booster jabs, if needed, would initially go to people over 70, as well as NHS workers and care home staff. Manufacturing in the UK will be stepped up to avoid any issues with the supply chain. The government hopes 8 different vaccines will be available by the autumn. One of them could offer protection against 3 variants in a single dose. More than 324,000 people had their first dose of a COVID vaccine in the latest 24-hour period, bringing the total to more than 29 million. Over 3 million people have now had both doses. When non-essential shops reopen in England on the 12th of April, after months of closures, they will be allowed to stay open until 10 at night, 6 days a week. The government says the extended opening hours will help shoppers return safely to the high street, protect jobs and reduce pressure on public transport. But any effect on the number of coronavirus cases will need to be closely monitored. Simon Jones, BBC News.
10 people have been arrested in Bristol overnight following violent disorder in the city.
Hundreds of people had gathered for a third time to protest against a government bill that would give the police more powers to restrict demonstrations. Tim Ullman reports.
For the third time in less than a week, police clash with protesters on the streets of Bristol. The demonstration had been largely peaceful, but just after 10 o'clock, officers told people to disperse, then they moved in. Wearing helmets and carrying shields, they moved forward, trying to force protesters to leave. There appeared to be minor scuffles, some officers using batons as they confronted the demonstrators. Police say projectiles, including eggs and glass bottles, were thrown at them and lasers were shone in their faces. All this happening close to Bridewell police station, the scene of Sunday's first Kill the Bill demonstration. This described as the worst violence the city had seen in many, many years. Last night that anger was felt once more. Protesters insisting their freedom to demonstrate is being taken away. But Avon and Somerset police said they would not tolerate violent disorder. Tim Ullman, BBC News.
Wales is the first part of the UK to lift travel restrictions within its borders as the stay local rule is being relaxed from today.
Yeah, tourist accommodation can reopen. 6 people from 2 households can now meet outside and in private gardens. Hal Griffith reports.
Time to head to the highest peaks or just breathe in some sea air. With travel restrictions now at an end within Wales, Plenty of people are desperate to reacquaint themselves with the countryside and coast. But there's a warning. Keep away from crowds and have an alternative trip in mind if you find green spaces filling up.
We are expecting our hotspot areas to get busy, and we would advise people to maybe have a couple of plans up their sleeve, so that if they arrive in one place and it's busy and they're not comfortable being there, they've already got a plan B.
Last summer, after the first lockdown, sunny weather saw people swarm to places like Snowdonia, making some local communities feel anxious. Natural Resources Wales, which manages large areas of the countryside, says this time people must be careful to protect themselves and the environment. There have also been warnings for people outside Wales to stay away unless their journey is essential, with the requirement to stay at home still in place around the rest of the UK. Howell Griffith, BBC News.
All lorry and van drivers entering Britain from the EU, except the Republic of Ireland, may be required to take a COVID test from the 6th of April if they're going to be staying more than 48 hours here. That is according to the Road Haulage Association, which also says the fine for failing to comply with those rules could be as much as £2,000. The Department for Transport has not yet confirmed the move, though.
A number of EU countries are introducing new restrictions in an effort to control a third wave of COVID infections.
Germany's Public Health Institute has warned there could be up to 100,000 deaths if the third wave spreads unchecked. And new restrictions are also coming into force in Poland as cases there have soared by more than a third.
Let's speak to our correspondent in Warsaw, Adam Easton. Adam, I'm just looking at some of the figures that are coming out of Poland at the moment. It does look like they need to take some quite strict measures, extra measures. Talk us through what's being done there.
Yes, that's right. Poland is seeing all-time highs for new infections. Three times this week it's broke the record. And from today, there's introducing heightened restrictions. That's closing nurseries, preschools, hair salons, and large DIY and furniture stores. That's on top of a national partial lockdown, which was introduced just last weekend, which saw the closure of shopping centres, hotels, all sporting and cultural facilities. So the infection rate is accelerating here so quickly that people, including the Prime Minister here, Mateusz Morawiecki, says that Poland is facing its most difficult moment since the pandemic began. And if the infection rate is not slowed, then the health system here will basically not be able to cope. And it's not just in Poland, of course. We're seeing in the region, Czech Republic, Hungary, very high death rates. Also in Germany, as you mentioned, the Public Health Institute has warned that infections could rise to 100,000 a day. That's 5 times the amount we've seen in recent days. And the health minister there has also said that if the infection rate goes unchecked, then the German health system will be under severe pressure and not be able to cope from next month.
Thank you very much indeed, Adam Easton, talking to us from Warsaw.
More than 90,000 police officers have been deployed to parts of France with high levels of coronavirus to carry out stringent checks. It comes as the country tackles its third wave of the pandemic. Those living in high-risk areas currently aren't allowed to travel more than 6 miles from home unless it's an emergency. France has placed another 3 regions now into a partial lockdown.
And Wales have won their second Six Nations title in 3 years after Scotland defeated France last night in a delayed but very dramatic game with an ongoing pandemic, meaning there were muted celebrations all round. However, the Welsh Rugby Union did post this tribute on social media, thanking the whole nation. Former international Scott Quinnell summed up what many will have been thinking watching that game. Incredible game, and ever the proud Welshman. Hugh Edwards posted Cymru am byth, which means long live Wales. What do you get when you get together an emu chick, a baby goat and a gosling? Is this one of those bad jokes that we had last week? A gosling walked into a pub. No, you get a very, very cute party. Have a look at these pictures. Taz the emu, Ulrid the goat and Wriggle the gosling have formed an inseparable bond.
Aren't they cute?
Where is this? This is at Canehill Countryside Centre in Wiltshire. And all three of them needed special care after they were born earlier this month. So they've sort of been thrown together, but they've apparently become the best of friends since. That is the sweetest thing.
Where's Beatrix Potter when you need her? That's very sweet indeed. We show those all morning, I think.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.